One blast in Snellville, T-Hood gone, and by sunrise the Frost kids were blamed. Rasheeda's done being quiet. Let's talk receipts versus rumors. It didn't take a press conference to drag the Frost family into the middle of this. Just one viral headline and 1,000 quote tweets. Overnight, entertainment pages and reaction channels started pushing a link between a detained individual and the Frost name. Nobody waited on the paperwork. Instantly, the narrative shifted from what happened to T-Hood to did the Frost kids have something to do with it? That pivot is classic internet. Attach a familiar TV family to a breaking case and watch engagement jump. Creators clipped any old love and hip-hop moment that could be reframed like a clue. A side-eye becomes motive. An argument becomes foreshadowing. A throwaway line from a reunion show becomes a pattern. By sunrise, you had threads mapping alleged connections, stitching up timelines like detectives, and labeling them confirmed when they were anything but. Add in a couple of usernames claiming inside info, and the snowball became a landslide. The reason it stuck? The Frosts are polarizing. People either ship Kirk and Rasheeda as a power couple who survived everything, or they think the brand is all gloss and cleanup. That love-hate makes any accusation travel farther. And once the theory took off, that a suspect might be tied to the Frost family, the comments split into camps. They set him up versus there's no way, stop reaching. Even fans who begged for patience got drowned out by louder voices chasing the next hot take. None of this was built on an official statement. Police didn't stand at a podium and say, here's the family link. What happened was simpler. A few accounts posted that a detained person was allegedly connected to the Frosts. Then bigger pages repeated it with spicier wording. Then the algorithm did what the algorithm does, rewarded outrage and certainty. Now you've got a trending story where the family's last name is the hook, and every new post is a stack on top of the same unverified claim. This is the point where reputations take hits that are hard to reverse, even if updates later say the connection was misunderstood or overblown. The first version is what people remember. And when your entire brand is built on staying unbothered, running businesses, and playing the long game, having your kids' names swimming in homicide hashtags is the exact storm you try to avoid. But if you thought the Frosts were going to stay silent while their children get blamed, the internet had other plans for the next chapter. Rasheeda, RAGES didn't come from an official statement. It came from a feeling the internet decided she must be having. As the Frost kids got blamed across threads, people started projecting emotions onto her. Dragged, fed up, ready to snap. Screenshots of old captions were reposted like they were fresh. A clip of her defending her family from years ago got recycled, slapped with a new headline, and boom, now she's raging in real time, whether she typed a single word or not. Kirk went through the same blender. His brand has always been business-minded and calculated. Let the storm pass, then make a move. But when the family name trends next to a homicide, the calm CEO vibe reads to some as guilty silence and to others as smart strategy. Either way, the rumor mill doesn't leave breathing room. You get punished if you speak, punished if you don't. If you post a promo, you're called cold. If you go dark, they say you're hiding. The only thing that wins on the timeline is drama, and the Frosts have spent years trying to be bigger than that. Meanwhile, fans who actually follow their day-to-day noticed something. The kids went quiet. Less posting, fewer comments, tighter circles. That's not a confession. That's survival. The first rule when a case heats up is to stop feeding the beast. Every emoji can be reinterpreted as a message. Every location tag becomes a lead. So the family pulls back, and the internet fills the silence with even louder claims. The truth is, we've seen Rasheeda protect her household before, on and off camera. That's part of why the RAGES narrative rings for people who've watched her for years. When she draws a line, it's usually firm. But protecting your kids doesn't always look like clapping back on IG. Sometimes it's lawyers, calls, and receipts you never see until it counts. And that's the catch. The people with the most to lose are usually the quietest while things are active. The people with the least to lose are usually the loudest. So as Rasheeda RAGES trended off recycled content and assumptions, the family stayed chess while the internet played checkers. But the noisiest rumor was still cresting, the one that tried to rewrite the entire night into a protector story that made everything feel even messier. The loudest storyline to rise out of the chaos was the protective brother angle. A claim that a brother stepped in to shield his sister from a volatile situation that spiraled out of control. It's the kind of narrative that travels fast because it gives people a hero and a reason. And in a world where context gets cropped out, a chivalry-coded storyline feels like closure, even if the paperwork doesn't match yet. Here's what that rumor does. It simplifies a complex night into a single motive. It turns a house into a battlefield, and a split-second decision into a clear-cut cause, all without the full chain of evidence. Creators stitch together screenshots, old arguments, and out-of-context clips to build a case. A few claim they had DMs and sources, but the receipts on screen didn't say what the voiceover said they did. And because the phrase allegedly got sprinkled like seasoning, the content dodged hard statements while delivering the same message. On the other side, you had people calling it reckless. They pointed out that protective doesn't automatically mean justified, that hype doesn't equal facts, and that every time a rumor names a family, the risk goes way beyond views. That's the split. Some framed it as a desperate act to defend someone they love. Others framed it as a tragic overreach that left a man dead. Both sides argued like they were in the room, and neither side had the case file. Legally, this is where everything gets sensitive. Motive isn't established by a trending theory. It comes from interviews, phone data, ballistics, timelines, and statements that hold up under pressure. If a protective brother decision happened, you'd expect forensic threads that back it up. Who was where, who had what, and what exactly set the moment off. Without those details, this storyline is just that, a storyline. The deeper problem, once a rumor gives people a moral frame, they stop waiting for facts. And this rumor gives everyone a role, a sister in danger, a brother stepping up, a life lost, and a family caught in the crossfire. It's cinematic, but real cases are never that clean. If the receipts are out there, they're not public yet. If they're not, this narrative might be a projection people wanted to believe because it makes chaos feel like a choice. And that's why the next step matters, separating what's verified from what's viral. Because once you strip away the edits and the echo chamber, the file on record doesn't look like a movie. It looks like a timeline still waiting to be finished. Let's strip this down to the pieces that stand without edits, captions, or hype. Verified, T. Hood, age 33, was shot at his home and later passed at the hospital. Police treated it as a homicide investigation from the start. One individual was detained for questioning. His mother denied the party rumor and said there wasn't a turn-up happening when everything went left. That's the bedrock, the stuff you can repeat without ducking. Unverified, a direct on-the-record police confirmation that explicitly ties the Frost kids to the case. The rumors that a specific brother acted in defense of a sister remain claims online, not statements from authorities. The viral timelines connecting old show moments to this incident are creative edits, not evidentiary chains. And the biggest gap? No publicly available charging documents naming a Frost family member at the time the internet crowned a culprit. There's also the language game creators play to keep momentum while dodging accountability. Words like linked, connected, tied to, and the magic shield allegedly get thrown around so much they start to sound official. They aren't. If there's a real connection, it'll appear in filings, warrants, or an official spokesperson's briefing. Until then, it's a loud chorus built on inference. That doesn't mean the theory is impossible. It means it's not confirmed. Why does this matter? Because once a family name is fused with a homicide hashtag, it sticks. Even if a week later the story shifts, brands get spooked. Long-standing reputations take dings. And for the people closest to the case, the silence isn't strategy. It's often legal necessity. Lawyers tell clients to stop posting, stop hinting, and stop reacting, which only feeds the crowd that wants a show. So here's the map. On one path, you've got verified facts we can stand on without guessing. On the other, you've got viral narratives that keep people watching but haven't crossed into the record. If you're making content, you sit between those paths and choose how to talk. That's why you hear creators say, reports say, sources claim, and allegedly. It's code for we don't have the receipts yet. And the truth is, one update, one filing can flip everything overnight. But while everyone waits for that flip, the fallout doesn't wait. It keeps moving, it keeps trending, and it hits way beyond the internet. And that's where the next wave of this story landed. Brand ties, fan wars, and a reality TV community that suddenly had to pick sides. The fallout hit 3 arenas at once: fans, brands, and the love and hip-hop ecosystem. Fans split into echo chambers. One side demanded the Frosts speak immediately, as if silence equals guilt. The other side begged everyone to stop naming people without paperwork, pointing out that internet trials ruin lives long before a judge ever looks at a file. Both sides got louder, and creators fed both with clips that confirmed whatever their audience already believed. Brands don't argue, they retreat. When a family name trends next to a death investigation, partnerships start ghosting or reviewing activations behind closed doors. That's how reputation damage works now. Not a big public fallout, but a quiet calendar that suddenly looks empty. For people who built their life on entrepreneurship and long-term plays, that's the pain point. Momentum. If you've been following Rasheeda and Kirk for years, you know they've invested heavily in staying marketable outside the show. A controversy this loud tests that entire structure. Then there's the LHHATL community, which runs on drama, but also understands the line between storyline and real-world tragedy. Cast alumni and adjacent influencers started posting coded messages about family first, stop clout chasing with grief, and let the facts breathe. It's a dance. You acknowledge the moment without putting your name on a claim you can't back up later. You show support without stepping into a legal crossfire. It's not fake. It's survival in an industry that never forgets screenshots. And inside the Frost household, the strategy looked simple. Go quiet, tighten circles, stop feeding narratives that could turn into exhibits. That's not hiding. It's standard when anything legal could be in play. Because if you think the comment section is unforgiving, try a cross-examination where a caption gets read out loud and every emoji is a statement. The people who've done this before will tell you, the less you post, the more room you have to move when it counts. The crazy part? Silence became its own headline. Why aren't they talking? Became, they must be guilty. It's the trap that keeps people performing for the algorithm while hurting their own cases. The Frosts didn't perform. They let others spin while they locked down, which is why the next phase matters most. The actual steps that decide whether this stays internet lore or turns into something with real names on real documents. What happens next is simple on paper and messy in real life. There's a suspect to be charged. That shows up in filings. No more sources say. Just a name, a statute, and a story the DA is willing to stand behind. If the protect his brother narrative has substance, you'll see it reflected in how attorneys frame the incident. Context, prior threats, witness statements, any documented history that explains why the night escalated. And if it doesn't appear, that's your sign that the internet wrote an episode the case file didn't. Watch for the basics: official charging documents, first appearances, and whether bond is even on the table. Listen for language like self-defense, defense of others, or reckless conduct. Phrases that signal how both sides want this framed. Police updates matter, but pay closer attention to court calendars and clerks' pages. That's where rumor turns into record. Also, watch the family's legal posture. A statement from counsel is more meaningful than a caption because lawyers don't submit quotes they can't defend. There's also the social turn. If a Frost family statement appears, it'll likely be carefully worded, respectful to the victim's family, and focused on cooperation. If nothing comes, that can mean the advice is to stay completely silent. Either way, don't confuse a lack of Instagram posts with a lack of movement. The real action is calls, meetings, and documentation that never hits a feed. For creators and fans, the next big test is discipline. When a case is hot, every blurry screenshot gets dressed up as a bombshell. Resist that. Demand receipts. The difference between a link and a legal connection is the difference between content and consequences. And for the Frosts, whose brand lives at the intersection of TV fame and real business, the priority is obvious. Protect the kids, protect the name, protect the long game. That doesn't play well on the timeline, but it plays in real life. The clock is ticking. Either filings land and the story hardens, or the narrative softens as the facts refuse to match the hype. Both outcomes have consequences. One keeps this in headlines, the other leaves a stain that fades slower than the algorithm moves. Either way, the families involved deserve facts, not fan fiction. And when the next update drops, it won't come from a meme page. It'll come from a docket. Here's the bottom line. A man lost his life, and the internet wrote the script before the evidence did. T. Hood's name deserves truth, not edits. The Frost family got dragged into a storm that feeds off certainty without receipts, and the Rasheeda RAGES narrative proved how fast projection becomes proof online. If the case file backs the rumors, it'll show up in black and white. If it doesn't, half the people who swore they knew won't even blink. They'll just move on to the next fire. But for the ones actually living this, there's no moving on, just moving different. Less talking, more lawyering. Less clout, more caution. And for everyone watching, remember, The first version is almost never the full version. The next page turns when filings land, when statements are on letterhead, and when timelines are built from evidence, not engagement. Until then, keep your eyes open and your mind flexible, because the story you're sure about today might not survive tomorrow's receipts. If you want the update the second it hits, we'll be here. And when the next twist drops, we'll separate what's verified from what's just loud.